Welcome to The Backstory, a podcast from the North Dakota News Cooperative that takes an in-depth look at the stories we're reporting for you. I'm Sabrina Halvorson, CEO of the North Dakota News Cooperative. Joining me is Michael Standaert, our lead reporter. Right, so Michael, the story that we're talking about today was headlined Federal Cost Cutting Imperils Some North Dakota Senior Programs. And this was a really important story. We got a lot of feedback after people read it who are concerned about these programs because they're really important programs for a lot of people around our state. Tell me a little bit about what some of these grants are and what some of the programs are that could be affected if these federal grants go away.
So the Senior Companions programs are facilitated at the federal level by AmeriCorps, and AmeriCorps has had a lot of reorganization recently and kind of funding cuts, and I was told there are about 132 different senior programs that AmeriCorps had been funding or helping to run across the country that are in a limbo right now. The Office of Management and Budget hasn't released funding for a lot of these programs. There's a lot of concern that some may end. The ones that are in North Dakota, they've been running for 44 years, from what I was told. Lutheran Social Services out of Minnesota currently uses two grants to help operate those two Senior Companions programs in North Dakota. They're split between two. The main one is covering 32 counties. The other one covers, I think, 21 counties. The one that covers 32 counties is only funded through September, and that's the one that people are most concerned about. That's the largest grant. And then the other one is funded through, I think it was June 30th the next year. So right now, people are just concerned about what will happen to these programs. There are around 375 volunteers who give their time and spend time with people who may not have family around. They may need extra help just visiting them and making sure that they're safe, that they're getting their groceries, they're getting their medications, this sort of thing. They don't do any health type activity. It's mainly to have a helper or essentially a friend, and the volunteers all get $4 an hour stipends. So for some of those people who are just basically getting Social Security's checks, all these volunteers are 55 and older, and they've all been vetted to have a need. You can't be, some retiree with a lot of money doing this. You have to demonstrate a need for that stipend. For some of these people, if they don't get that stipend anymore, I was told by one that she might have to choose between her meds and groceries.
I thought that was really interesting in reading this story. And the volunteer who you spoke with, she's 77 years old, and she was talking about, like you pointed out, how important this extra source of income is for her, having to choose between her groceries or medication if she does not have that extra income. And that, to me, showed two sides of this story. One, were all of these seniors who could lose these services. And then secondly, all of these volunteers who are seniors themselves, who are healthy and able to go out and volunteer for this program and do get a stipend. That is going to be a problem for them as well to lose that. So we're really seeing two different groups that can be very strongly affected by losing these federal grants. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think in some cases, relationships have been formed as well. Some of these people may end up still helping these people at some point. They get the stipend plus they get mileage reimbursement. So if you have to drive half hour to go see somebody and you're not getting a mileage reimbursement, you might have second thoughts about doing that if you're not being covered by another program. It helps incentivize this and helps keep those, from what I was told, it helps keep some of those people who are living independently from having to go to long-term care facilities and that sort of thing. So yeah, it has a few different impacts if it does not get funded.
And again, you said that this is again related to the AmeriCorps cuts. And we had another story on that earlier this year about how school services would be affected by cuts to AmeriCorps. So this is a second part of that as well. And again, with those cuts being made and a lot of programs that people here in North Dakota really depend on, that could have a big effect statewide, right?
Yes, and one of the things that really jumped out to me from this was like, oh, I didn't really know about this program. And I think most people really don't know that these people are out there doing this work. There's not many stories showing what these people are doing, whether it's AmeriCorps programs in schools or these AmeriCorps programs with seniors. We often didn't really hear about these things until they're on the verge of being lost. So I think this kind of goes to a lot of the federal cuts are impacting things that people really didn't, other than the people that were in them or helping to arrange them, there weren't a lot of people that really knew about them and how instrumental they'd become in helping facilitate various services around the state.
So this is one of those stories, another one of these stories, I should say, that we do that really shows some of the programs around our state and how they can affect our residents here in North Dakota. And when you're reporting something like this, a program being cut that could have such a wide impact, what are some of the things that you as a reporter consider?
So maybe I should go into how this came to me because I hadn't really heard about this at all. And then another newspaper editor in a small town had reached out to me and said, "Had you heard about there's possibility that this might end?" And then she had heard some things in her area. I started to call around to all the senior companions staff in the state and called, emailed, nobody responded. It took a day or two to figure out who to talk to. And I spoke to the people in Minnesota that are at the top of this. There were some concerns from the editor that the person in overseeing those programs in her region was terminated or that could be terminated. So I was trying to figure that out. Maybe you can go back to, I kind of lost the track of your
That's
question.
okay. So you were telling us a little bit about how this story came to be, but then also just as a reporter who focuses on statewide issues, what are some things to, again, to give people a look at what we do as reporters and why we do it? What are some things you consider when reporting a story like this?
You have to look into the program itself and just kind of the background of the program, and then speak to as many people operating the program as you can to see what's happening. And again, it was difficult to get a hold of people at first to figure out what was actually happening. There were kind of rumors going around of what was happening, so that was helpful to get a better idea of kind of the breakdown of these two different grants, because I think that's where some of the confusion was with the grant covering the 32 counties that will possibly end in September. That has different impacts than the one that is still going until June next year. So I think that's where some of the confusion had been created, and just kind of getting a better idea from the people, running it that can talk about what they do. Just that's the initial question is, okay, what does this program do and how do you serve people? Because it's a lot of these programs don't really advertise themselves very well. So I think trying to figure out, okay, what do these people do on a daily basis? And then speaking with the volunteer, it's okay, what are you out there doing? Who are you helping? And how much of an impact does that make to the people that you help?
So going back and looking at how you ended up getting this story, and we have a couple of times on this podcast talked about if people have tips or have a story or something that they want us to look into, send us tips because that's one way that we know about the things that are going on around the state is when people, our readers, tell us. And so are you open to getting more tips about stories like this?
Yes, keep sending them my way. I've heard I increasingly hear from editors and other publications around the state of something that's happening in their area that might be a statewide story, but they just don't really know. And they don't really have the staff or the time to dig into that too much. So it's good to hear those things. Yeah, just keep sending things my way.
You can read that story on our website at newscoopnd.org or in one of our local newspaper partners. For the North Dakota News Cooperative, I'm Sabrina Halvorson. This has been The Backstory.